video is about complex molecular geometries. So we'll start with CLF5, and we're going to determine the molecular geometry. The first thing we'll do is sketch the Lewis structure, then figure out how to name this molecular geometry. We've got one chlorine atom, and it's going to be bonded to 5 fluorines. I've started with a skeleton here, and then I'm going to add in the rest of my valence electrons. So I have to count up how many valence electrons I have total to distribute. Each of these atoms has 7 valence electrons, and I've got chlorine, and then 5 fluorines. So altogether, that's 6 atoms times 7 valence electrons. So I've got 42 total valence electrons to distribute. Now I drew my skeleton over here, and I see that I have 5 bonds. All of those 5 bonds hold 2 electrons. So that's 10 total electrons already drawn in bonds. That means I have 32 electrons, 42 minus 10. So I'm going to have 32 electrons that I still need to distribute. So I'm going to take these fluorines, and I'm going to add enough electrons to satisfy their octet. So I'm going to add on each fluorine 6 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so on. That gives fluorine 6 valence electrons in unshared pairs and 2 in the bond, so 8 total valence electrons. I have 5 fluorine atoms. I added 6 electrons to each, so that gives me 30 electrons I just added. That means I still have 2 electrons, 32 minus 30. So 2 electrons that I need to add. I'm going to put those on the central atom, so those are going to be on chlorine. Now that I have the Lewis structure, I can determine the shape. So I'm going to see how many electron domains I have. I have 5 bonding and 1 unshared pair, so 6 total. So all those 5 bonds, so 6 total electron domains. That means that if I had something bonded to every electron domain, it would be octahedral. But notice I have that unshared pair instead of 6 things bonded to chlorine. So that's going to make this guy square pyramidal as the shape. And there's lots of options for 6 electron domains. But in this case, we've got square pyramidal. We'll look at one more example. For this one, we have ICl3. So again, I'm going to sketch the skeleton of the Lewis structure, finish the Lewis structure, and then pick the shape. I is going to be bonded to 3 Cl atoms. So that's my skeleton. Now I'm going to find my total number of valence electrons. I have 4 halogens. They each have 7 valence electrons, so that's 28 valence electrons. I have 3 bonds, so that's 6 electrons in the bonds. I have 22 electrons that I still need to place. I'm going to satisfy chlorine's octet by adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 valence electrons to each chlorine. I added 6 valence electrons to 3 atoms, so that's 18 electrons I just added. We need 4 electrons to go on this Lewis structure. I'm going to put 2 unshared pairs on iodine. This molecule has 5 electron domains. So I'm going to look at my list and figure out what will this be, and it is T-shaped. Those 2 unshared pairs push the other bonded atoms into a T shape. Remember that electrons are trying to push away from each other, and they're going to arrange themselves to minimize the repulsion between them. So that's how we end up with T-shaped. And so again, just to summarize, we looked at the molecule, drew the skeleton, added up the valence electrons, subtracted the electrons in the bonds, added electrons to try and satisfy the octets, and then added extra electrons to the central atom. And then you go from there to select the molecule shape.